Let's look at now the definition. Let's describe this international trade and finance and its definition. Let's define it. If you look at international trade and finance, what comes into your mind? Having gone through everything that I have taught you, what comes into your mind?
I think this is more businesses that occur between two or more than a country.
Yeah, in other words, you look at international trade has to do with the buying and selling of commodities, goods and services within countries. So not only goods and services, again, when we look at this international trade, yeah, it's to do with the buying and selling. But now if you come to the finance part, it's where now we are looking at now the price is coming in. Because when we talk about the price, you cannot buy and sell something. You have to talk about the price of certain commodities. So the price now is what comes in. Now, within this, we have got markets. What comes to your head when we talk about international trade markets? Do you have international trade markets?
Yeah.
One of them? Yeah, we have, indeed, we have international trade markets outside. These are markets, and again, if you look at these international trade markets, mostly we look at the banks, because where this buying and selling occurs mostly in the banks, right? So international trade and finance, mostly it is happening in banks. And again, if you look at these markets, they are very numerous. There are plenty markets. Each and every country have got international trade and finance markets. They are there. It's where now we'll be looking at exchange rates. Because for you to be involved, for you to say you want to involve yourself in markets, you need to have what I call you need to have the knowledge of exchange rates. So when you talk about exchange rate, what comes to your head? Exchange rate.
The rate of income of an international rate to local rate.
Yeah. In other words, we are looking at exchange rates as the international rate to that one which is a local rate. So if you look at these rates, international rates, based on that, do you think that these rates are they at the very same level, or they change?
They change.
Why do you think that they change? What makes them change?
They have different reasons.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes they make evaluation, sometimes they make maybe the international trade market is not performing.
If the market is not performing well, or if you are saying that sometimes it's because of what?
Is it devaluation?
Devaluation. What is devaluation?
The loss of value in income.
Loss of value in income. That's very true. When I look at loss of value in income, that is very true. So these exchange rates, they do differ from a country to country. That's what I actually said. That if we look at these exchange rates in our subsequent lessons. Then we look at world of international trade. World of international trade. What's the reason for the growth of international world trade? countries they are promoting trading from one commodity to another in several countries so that they are want to promote trade. Yeah, that's very true. That sometimes there must be that reasons for the growth of international trade. You see, where you are looking at international trade, you are buying and you are selling, and then you are aiming at the country aims at getting money, and even improving its economy. So economy itself cannot just be improved. There must be other modalities that have to be put in place if they want to improve that. We have got another area that international trade in form of the flow of goods and services. Flow of goods and services. Right, before we come to that, can you give me an example of goods and services that do flow as a result of international trade?
For example, services can be, I think with bank services, I think which can be more income, like the money that is moving from certain country to another.
Okay.
Yeah, and the services is how the money is being moved from that particular country to another. I think that's the way I'm saying it.
Okay. So look at that in terms of resetting from one country to another. So where we set from one country to another is where I was talking about resources. And again, if you look at this international, the flow of goods and services, that sometimes from one country to another, there must be that scarcity. The issue here is sometimes it does not mean that there are other goods that are not manufactured in Malawi, but they can be manufactured in outside. It's where international trade is coming in. But this trade is buying and selling. It's not all goods or services are produced in a country. There are other goods and services that are produced outside the country, and it's for that country to at least to import. So we're looking at that. So we'll be looking at these issues, these areas. Now, do you see any relevance on this, on international trade and finance with globalization? Do you understand what globalization is all about?
Yeah.
Do you see an advantage or any relevance on this international trade? You will discover that this international trade, for it to be there must countries, their welfare. In other words, there is that improvement in the economies, international trade. Without international trade, countries would have been there without their economies growing. Right? And another area that we look at is, as I've already said, I said something on restrictions of trade. What is to restrict trade? What comes to your mind when you are talking about restriction of trade?
More of the boundary.
Huh?
The limit, you said it.
A limit.
The limit or the boundary to trade.
Do you see any limit, any relevance on limit on international trade?
I think like there are other commodities that are banned from other countries to the
What are the examples of those ones?
I would say guns, like more guns. Guns are
terms of license.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you cannot buy a car and passing by the borders. You need to be restricted. And again, you are restricted based on how many have you taken from there. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you are being restricted. So there must be that restriction. And again, there must be that promotion. Countries have to be promoted international trade. Because we are looking at Malawi. Malawi is one of the poorest countries, one of the at least is within those poorest countries. So our expectation is that Malawi, though is part of one of the poorest country in Africa or world, it needs to be looked into consideration in terms of commodities. In terms of commodities. So there must be, sometimes we have total ban if we are restricting. You can either promote or you can restrict. These are the two issues in international trade. You either promote or you restrict. Right? Then another area that we look at is about new protectionism. New protectionism. In other words, that we look at the very same these trade policies, they are being changed from time to time. The policies that were there a long time and the policies that are there now, discover that they are different because of new protectionism. There is that difference. Tariff. There are several tariffs. MRA, when it wants to charge, they use what are called tariffs. So based on these international trade tariffs. So look at those ones and the way they affect international trade. See, most of these, I think, look at them in details. Look at them in details. We'll not be looking at them passive, but we'll be looking at them in details. So that each and every area is being looked at with very, very keen interest. Now, you are in Malawi. You are in Malawi. Do you see any relevance of Malawi government doing international trade?
Yeah.
Yeah. Top?
It's more like for Malawi to indulge like themselves in international trade. I think one, it's a way of promoting their local services to the international market, and it's more like also a way. The second one, it can be like a way of connection between them and other business agents outside the country. And the third one, I think it's more like it encourages foreign currency to the country, which helps in different aspects of the relations.
Yeah, foreign currencies. And again, you see, when Malawi is being linked with the other international partners, you are binding that relationship between Malawi and other countries. In other words, you are promoting the relationship. Hey? Yes. So we are looking at it, that this being as an international trade, it's so useful because it strengthens the relationship among countries. It strengthens the relationship among countries. You find if the relationship was sour, but because of international trade and finance, you have to develop that relationship. I've seen a certain wedding here. Something to do with the exchange rate risk behavior. Exchange rate risk or behavior. Now, when we talk about exchange rate risk behavior, what comes to your head to do with the exchange rate risk behavior? Do you know what the risk is all about? If someone asks you, what is a risk? How do you define how would you define risk? What is a risk?
The risk is more of a decision that is made knowing the consequences that can be faced if it fails.
A risk is
It's a decision that is made by a person having in mind of the consequences you might face, the consequences that can be faced after the failure of the decision.
if you fail, what will be the consequences on that? So a risk is something which is uncertainty that can come. You know what is uncertainty? Something that can come accidental. So these exchange rates sometimes you don't invite them, but they just come as you find that these risks, exchange rate risks, they do affect sometimes the currency of the country. The way a dollar is being sold or is being bought on a market, you find that it's not to your expectation. That's what it's called foreign currency risk behavior. So, in terms of foreign exchange markets, and again, because we talk about markets, it's where you buy and sell. The way it differ from one bank to another, they don't work the same. They don't work the same. They work differently. And another area that we have to discuss is about management policy on economy. What are the management policies in the open economy? What about these open economies? We'll be looking at them that sometimes the microeconomic policies, they have to do with the fixed exchange rates. Fixed exchange rates. You see, when we say that the country is doing well, if the exchange rate is sometimes on a stable situation, does not mean that the exchange rate has to, there must be that difference but not much. We say that the exchange rate is very, very nice. So exchange rates generally, the way you exchange monetary issues from one country to another, again, they do affect the way a country is obtaining their financing. So we look at these areas in international trade and finance. But generally, we are looking at this in terms of trade, international trade. So exchange rate risks, exchange rate risks. Before we proceed, do you have questions or do you have observation?
Exchange risk basically on being same international arbitrage and interest parity. What is more
They are talking about, you're saying,
international arbitrage and interest parity.
or international arbitrage. So we look at this arbitrage in terms of now prices, the way prices. So I would define arbitrage. We define arbitrage in terms of we talk about treaty, and then I'll define what that treaty is all about. So, generally, the overview, if you look at someone, if someone asks you, you know international trade and finance, you should be able to at least be able to say something that it is to do with the pricing and markets and monetary issue. These are three things: pricing of monetary issues is to do with international trade and finance. The assignment that I'll have to give you, which you need to find answers when you on the where on our way on, is the first assignment is this one. Down this assignment. The assignment. Any relevance or importance of international trade and finance? You see the importance of that. So you can talk about the exchange rates. You look at why is it that countries they have to depend on international trade and finance. Why international trade and finance? Any importance of international trade and finance? Any relevance of international trade and finance? So you have to write down that, and you know the way you write it. Font size 12, Roman times, spacing 1.5, and again you can submit this in 2 weeks time from now. So submission date, you can submit it in 2 weeks from now. Anytime you can do that. But I will urge you, as I've already said, I'll be urging you, you need to have books, you need to be visiting the library. Although we are having very few books from the library, I will urge you, you need to at least get materials. Apart from the library, you can either source, you can outsource books on your own on international trade and finance. Right. There is another area that again that has to be looked into consideration. Is about world of economic integration. World of economic integration. If someone asks, what is integration? How do you define integration? World of economic integration. What is integration? What is this economic integration? If someone asks you, how do you define integration? What is integration?
Integrate is to shift from one place to another.
To integrate. Again, if you look at integration, as they are saying, integration is you are trying to join this, that together. So, integration economically, we are looking at that Malawi has got its own system. Zambia, Zimbabwe, when they are merged, when they are being integrated together, they can be that usefulness. So integration has to do with that countries, they do not have the same type of trade internationally. But there must be that integration. You have to integrate, joining them together so that they are all following one thing. That's economic integration. noticed here, we have viewed and noticed that international trade, it is of very, very of great importance, especially international trade and finance. You see, the way you define, the way you can say something about this international trade, long time, go to historically, long time, people used to do barter. You know what barter is all about? Barter.
Exchange of goods.
Long time, people used to use what's called barter. We talk about the barter, we are looking at barter as exchange of goods to what? Goods. But it had difficulties. Ancient times, it had difficulties. So the difficulties were, by that time, very difficult to measure some other contents. Like if you have got a cow, someone has bags of meat. It's very difficult to quantify the prices. So that's why people had to switch on, off from barter to now this modern type of trade, which is the international trade. So the way you quantify, the way you handle your commodities, they are not the same. That's why other countries, they had to run away from barter system. They had to develop the current system of trade, which is the new trade that we are talking about now. Do you have any question? Any question or any observation? Any question or any observation in terms of international trade and finance? Any question or anything that you want? If someone asks you to say something about international trade and development, can you be able to write down that?
Yes.
What do you think it's about international trade and development? I mean, international trade and finance? What comes to your head, international trade and finance?
Selling and it's more of selling and buying of commodities between of selling and buying of commodities at an international level, which has for the given, which is as for the price allocated to it.
What are the examples of goods that are involved in the buying and selling of the international trade and finance? Are cars that are being bought, that are being involved in international trade and finance? I mean international trade and finance? Cars.
Yeah.
If you want, for example, you want to order a car from Japan, what modalities do you use?
They use the bank.
A bank. So when you use a bank, how do you do it?
You pay to the bank, and then the bank transfers the funds to the international account of the receiver. Who is supposed to receive the money.
Yeah. First of all, you order. You have seen something from the cartridge, you order. And once you have ordered, you start now coming up with the processes that you have to follow because you have ordered it. And then after those processes, it's when now, then you say, let me start now, you money, they will give you the price of the commodity that you want. So that is to do with the international trade. Because when you are doing that, while you are looking at international trade, you are here in Malawi. You are in Malawi situation. You are here, and then the fact that you are here, you are now you want someone somewhere to at least to give you the commodity. You are in Malawi here. You have ordered a car, and you are ordering it in Japan. International trade is coming because it's where the buying and selling comes in. But now, the only problem of this international trade and finance is now the currencies. That's why whatever we are saying, we are looking at now that the currencies now have to be affected because there must be that fluctuations of currencies. Prices attached to it, prices of commodities attached to it is where now you are looking at that, right? As we be going forward, as we be looking at part 2 of it, we just have to sign, and then we'll continue with our discussion. What's the time? For the 5 minutes, let's just wind up. Let's just look at this long and short-term financing. When you are financing, again, through this international trade and finance, there are short-term and long-term way of financing. So we're looking at this short-term and long-term way of financing in form of, especially when we are going to be looking at international cash management. That if what you buy it, they are short-term way of financing it, or they are long, they are at least long way of financing it. We'll be looking at this, and this is just more or less like it's an overview. It's an overview of the whole theory, the whole area on international trade and finance. If someone asks you, should be able to explain what is international trade and finance. When we meet next week, when we meet for our subsequent lesson, we'll be looking at it in terms of, we'll start it from the scratch and we'll look at each and every area